And now on to our new series, Election and Markets, in which we analyse how past elections and successive governments have dealt with various issues around key sectors. Today we look at the roads sector, its performance over the last 5 years of the BJP government and the big issues that it has left on the plate for the next government. Let me first hand it over to Anisha for a check on how the numbers stack up.
Well, let me start by talking about the thing that matters the most to investors. That is the stock performance. As you can see, the underperformance of the sector in the 2009 to 2014 region has been reversed in the last 5 years, with names like NCC growing at a scorching rate of 39% a year. And this does exemplify the performance of construction sector over the last 5 years. Now, the budgetary outlay for roads increased at an annual rate of 21% during FY15 to 19 and trebled from almost $6.6 billion in FY15 to around $17 billion in FY17. Now, this increased outlay led to the success in EPC awards in the initial 2 to 3 years, and that really allowed the construction companies to strengthen their beleaguered balance sheets and later participate in the PPP models like hybrid annuity, etc. Now, the highway construction also increased at an annual rate of 23% between FY14 to 18, and that set the stage for the government to set an ambitious target of construction of around 10,000 kilometers of national highways in FY19. In fact, the length of national highways constructed reached around 6,700 kilometers between the first 9 months of this year itself. Now, the pace of highway construction too accelerated from 12 kilometers per day in FY14 to right to 27 kilometers per day that we have seen in FY18 and 19, though it is still much below the government's own target of 40 kilometers a day. However, having said that, what this government did a commendable job with is the acceleration in the pace of roads awards. For example, by in FY14, less than 1,500 kilometers were awarded. In FY18, that number reached a level of around 7,500. The government over the last 5 years announced a lot of policy initiatives like Bharatmala, Sagarmala, etc. to support the road construction. The progress on the same, however, has been a tad bit slow compared to the tall targets. Now, Bharatmala 1, for example, the flagship policy of this government for road sector, entailed a spend of around 5.35 lakh on 34,800 kilometers of roads over the 5 years. However, as of September 18, only 270 kilometers were awarded versus the ask rate of 8,100 kilometers in FY19. So overall, while the government focus on infrastructure improvement was very evident in the first 3 to 4 years with nimble policy changes, easier arbitration, etc., issues like land acquisitions, delay in appointment dates, as well as the overall lack of funding really limited the performance in FY19, and the pace of awards has slowed down quite a bit, and that is the reason they had to scale down the initial guidance as well. Going forward, for any meaningful leg up in the sector, the companies would not only need the support from the central and the state governments, but it is also pertinent that the confidence of the banking sector comes back, because that has been one of the issues as well. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Anisha, for that very neat summary. Rohan Suryavanshi of Dilip Buildcon, Jayesh Desai, the infrastructure expert, and Praveen Sood, former Group CFO at HCC with us. Jayesh, let me begin with you. Anisha's data indicated that pace picked up brilliantly for the road orders and execution through the first 3, even 4 years, but the 5th year has been dull. You agree?
I think it has been dull. 2017-18 was in many ways a stellar year. You got a lot of hybrid annuity projects, 100 plus hybrid annuity projects awarded in that 15-month period. And it is clear that 2018-19 has been a dull year. I think largely, this actually keeps happening every time. Every 3-4 years, there's a big burst because project preparation has been done, and then it slows down. So we keep having this burst every 3-4 years. 2010 was a big burst here, then it slowed down for the next 4-5 years. Same thing happens again here. We had a lot of prepared projects. So it's a question of having a shelf of prepared projects rather than, anything. It's just a regular burst that happens.
Okay, let me invite Praveen Sood as well, the former Group CFO at HCC, who joins in. The 3 reasons why there's been a slowdown in, order awarding. One of them is land acquisition issues, delay in appointment dates, and the biggest one, I guess, is funding of projects, which we've seen only in the recent past. Have you seen any improvement in any of these 3 hurdles? And what is your own outlook on how things may progress over the next, say, 6 to 12 months?
Okay, fine. Let me start with the last one. I think funding issues, which was basically, I think keeping the pace at a very low rate, because most of the project which got awarded was unable to achieve financial closures, and of course banking sector have their own problems, and they were not funding and not keen to funding the infra projects. But now things are changing. If you look at the last data of the last maybe say 4 or 5 months, you will find there is basically a credit given to this sector has improved drastically. In fact, almost 10% increase in being seen in the last 4 months if you look at. So I think now bankers are coming back because they have got their issues sorted out to a large extent. Some merger happened, some funding from government has happened. So basically, if you look at most of the financial woes of the construction sector are now getting over. It's improving, but I think still a far way to go, but they are showing a definite improvement. And then coming back to the earlier two issues, there is a major issue regarding this appointed date basically, because what is happening is that land acquisition continues to be a big problem, and being in the election year, I think you can't go wholehearted and then grab the land or maybe take the land as and when you want. I think this issue is also having problem, and some regulatory issue regarding forest clearances, approvals and all those things are basically slowing down the pace. But having said that, I think there has been a commendable improvement into the road sector in the last 4 years. If you look at the total projects under implementation, large projects under implementation in the entire sector, out of 1,300 large projects under implementation, 543 are mainly of the road sector, and they have basically shown a very little cost overrun or the time overrun. So that's good.
What about the highway construction order target that the government set out? Anisha was telling us how it has been scaled down by almost 40% from the earlier target. What do you see as the outlook?
So yes, that target obviously had been scaled down, and the primary reason for that was because of elections. We had a big year the year before that, so obviously there was a lack of DPRs which the government took time to prepare. Then also there had been changes in the NHI and MOTH which further sort of there were people who had moved out, new people who were coming in, so there was a time lag there as well. And also now because of the election year, you also had less time to award. Even if you look at the last financial year, most of the orders came in the last 1 month. Now we went into election code of conduct in the first week of March.
No, second,
as in like around 10th of March. So we didn't really have.
Election dates were announced on 11th. Code of conduct came after mid-March.
Yeah. So, but we didn't have that full time for all the awarding that need to happen. So that was also a concern. But as we sit here, almost over 1 lakh crore of projects bids have already been floated. Now these projects are where the land acquisition process has already started. The government is in, machinery is in place. So once the elections are over, whatever government comes in, whether it's the current government.
You expect a burst of orders?
Yes, I do, because once the projects have been bidded out, as in they've been floated, cost has been incurred on the land acquisition. There is no other way than to give out these projects.
Mr. Sood, last 30 seconds, what's left on the plate? What would you be happy or warn about?
No, I'm happy, and I think what Rohan said and all those things, I also agree that I think most of the company into this sector will pose a growth of 20% average. I think the CRISIL report also came on this matter, says that it is looks like that 20% growth is given for this sector and all those things. So otherwise, I think things are improving for this sector, and I think things are looking much better as compared to what we have seen about 3 or 4 years back.
All right. Praveen Sood, Jayesh Desai and Rohan, thank you very much for joining in this conversation. It's a thumbs up for the road sector from our expert team, though they still believe that there are problems left on the table in terms of giving private equity investors the confidence to invest in new projects.